ResortLoop.com is proudly sponsored by Joffrey's Coffee and Tea Company. Indulge in a taste from the South Pacific. Joffrey's new Disney Parks and Resorts blend, Alani, brings the islands to you. Blended with Hawaiian Kona beans and roasted to perfection, Alani is buttery smooth with a tropical sweet aftertaste. Available at Alani or Joffreys.com.
This is Nancy, and I'm drinking a cup of Joffrey's coffee and packing for our trip to Disney World, including my great-looking Resort Loop t-shirt. Thanks, Bob and Tim.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
The body of water that you see to the right of our forward motion is the Seven Seas Lagoon. The Seven Seas Lagoon is a man-made creation that took 3 years and the removal of millions of cubic yards of earth to complete.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. I'm Tim Scott.
I'm Bob Collar.
This is ResortLoop.com. This is episode 329, and Bob, we need to give a special thanks out to Nancy.
Yeah, what a great open. She's sporting the new Resort Loop t-shirt, which is awesome. We appreciate that.
She is a super looper.
Super looper. Going to have it down there at Walt Disney World. Probably down there right now as we speak. So, or she's probably back home by now. But very excited about this show as well, Tim.
I am extremely excited about this show.
This is, we have a lot of Disney podcast rock stars on.
We do
now and then.
Every once in a while they come down to our level.
And the
commoner.
This is definitely Disney podcast royalty, if you will.
Exactly, he is.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce this incredible guest we have?
I would love to. Joining us from a little show they used to call WDW Today. From Studio
Just
Centrals,
a little show.
StudioCentrals.com and the Royal Caribbean blog, website, and podcast is Mr. Matt Hochberg. Matt, thanks for joining us on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for the welcome. Who's the celebrity? I'm dying to know.
You know.
Oh, come on.
Come on.
Oh, you guys.
You can't go anywhere down in those parks, I'm sure, without people just, attacking you.
It doesn't happen like that, but I'm always curious how that. I do meet a lot of folks. That was the best part. I don't know if you guys. Sorry, I'm going to totally derail where we're going with this.
No.
But I always thought that was the best part of podcasting is meeting the people. I mean, the episodes are fun and all the shtick and everything, but I really loved meeting folks. And when you get a chance to meet them in real life, in the parks and stuff like that, that was always a lot of fun. Getting to hang out and. Obviously we all like the same thing, so we're already off to a good start. And people get married with less stuff in common.
Exactly.
So
That's true.
People already get your inside jokes. It's outstanding.
Absolutely. There you go. Well, thank you for inviting me to come on here, even though you've had Len on like 8 times. Nonetheless, I appreciate you inviting me on here. I'm glad that we can talk a little bit.
Well, in truth, he does send us a check every now and then just to have him on. So
okay.
You just broke the non-disclosure agreement, Bob, but now the gravy train's over.
Wait a minute. Matt's getting checks from Len. What's going on? Wait a minute. Oh, my gosh. Well, we're not here to talk necessarily about Disney. We do have some Disney questions for you. But we're wanting to know about cruising.
Woot.
So we figured we'd have the Royal Caribbean blog expert on, because a lot of people want to pair a cruise with a Disney vacation. But when they look at the price of that Disney cruise, sometimes they're thinking, I don't think I can swing that.
Absolutely. It's one of those interesting things because when I started cruising, I would cruise. My first cruise was with Disney, and I did about 4 or 5 Disney cruises because, of course, like you guys, I love Disney World, and it only made perfect sense. I like Disney World, thus Disney Cruise Line must be right up my alley. And it was a great cruise, but the pricing of cruises really got to me. And one of the things I would say is, when we talk about Disney World, I say, why do we pay? Disney World costs also a lot, but you can justify it because you say, well, what's the competition, that comes close to Disney? And I really don't think there is anything in terms of the total experience, right? I mean, Disney World is number one with a bullet for a reason, and they've been a market leader forever, and they do it the right. I mean, there's a huge gap between them and their competition, and we see that if you compare a little competition in Orlando or California, or their local competition elsewhere around the country. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's really close. But what I learned through cruising was, while Disney Cruise Line does a great job and they have a great product, I don't think that they're that much different than their competition. They put out a good product, but so does the competition. And so when you consider that the competition is that close, there's similarities, right? Disney does some things better, Royal Caribbean does some things better, but when you consider how close they are, and then you consider the price difference, which is often in the thousands of dollars, for a family, you just start to say, well, why am I paying so much more? And that's what got me into cruising with Royal Caribbean. And I'm going to borrow a phrase from some friends of mine who say, for land vacations, we go to Walt Disney World. For cruise vacations, we go with Royal Caribbean. It's just the sensible thing to do in either case. And combining the two is great because obviously Royal Caribbean has a lot of cruises that go out of Florida. And obviously with Walt Disney World in Orlando, that's perfect because you get to fly in, have a little Disney World fun, take a cruise, or reverse that, whatever kind of floats your boat.
Now you've been on other cruise lines. Disney and Royal Caribbean aren't the only ones. You've done other cruise lines. How did you settle on Royal Caribbean being the one that you really fell in love with and wanted to talk about on your podcast?
It's a great question. When obviously, as I mentioned earlier, I started with Disney, and then we tried Royal Caribbean because at the time we were living in the Northeast, and Royal Caribbean offers cruises regularly out of Bayonne, New Jersey, which is the New York City area. And so we tried that out, and we said, wow, we really like it. And what happened was a couple of years later, there was an opportunity for us to go to Norwegian Cruise Line. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, well, I really liked Royal Caribbean. I obviously like Disney. Maybe I just like cruising in general. Maybe there is no difference to me, and I can really, just go with the flow, wherever whatever appeals to me at the time. And I went on a Norwegian cruise, and it was fun. I had a good time. I'm not going to characterize it by saying I had a bad time, but it wasn't the same thing. I really had like oh, that was nice, but I really don't want to do that again. Like I had a better appreciation for what Royal Caribbean did. So with that in mind, that kind of drove me back to, well, I like Royal Caribbean a heck of a lot better, and I like Disney still, but Royal Caribbean was really, for me, it's that balance. And I talk about this a lot, that with all the cruise lines, you can find cruise lines that offer you more than Royal Caribbean offers, but you're probably going to pay more for it. Example being Disney. You can find cruise lines that will cost you a heck of a lot less than Royal Caribbean. They're not the cheapest cruise line by any means, but I think you're going to get less for it. So Royal Caribbean really balances well what you pay for and what you get. And to me, that's really what it's about. And we've had such a great experiences going on them time and time again that I really got super interested in what Royal Caribbean was doing, and I wanted to share it. You guys know what it's like, right? This is the reason why we do podcasts, because it's fun to talk about what we really love doing, our passions, and right. and sharing my passion for cruising was really what I kind of discovered, and over the last couple of years, and I really wanted to go with it.
Cool.
Yeah, I know. I've taken 3 Royal Caribbean cruises before, and I've enjoyed every single one. It's a premium brand, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a great brand. It's a great family cruise line. And I think, like I said, I think it stacks up pretty well with Disney. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they do everything better than Disney. No, there's some things Disney does better. There's some things that Royal Caribbean does better, quite honestly. But when you factor in when you look at the total picture, I think that it's really, again, that the X factor being price. Royal Caribbean really comes out on top in my book. And I just, like I said, I think Disney does a great product. I'm not going to sit here and slam what they do, but their pricing is just beyond bizarre. Like, it just does not. It doesn't work. I don't understand it at all, because it just seems like they're just. They're the beneficiary rather of a lot of demand and not a lot of product. Right? They only have 4 ships. They're adding 2 more, but they enjoy a great brand loyalty, and that kind of plays into. I'm sure as a stockholder, I'm sure it's great, but as a consumer, right. It doesn't make a lot of sense for me, and that's why I think that it makes a whole lot more sense. Like you guys said, go vacation at Disney World, do your land vacations there, and balance that out with your cruises on Royal Caribbean. I think you're going to come out really with a great blend.
Now, I think that a lot of, especially the listeners to our podcast, because we're a Disney podcast like you guys were doing, and a lot of them are saying, okay, but Disney's going to be that family atmosphere that I'm going to get. So, I'm going to stick with the Disney kind of flavored. Compare the family experience on Disney with the one that you'd find on a Royal Caribbean cruise.
That's a great point, Bob. A lot of what I think the biggest problem, or not the biggest problem, the biggest hurdle for a Disney fan to try Royal Caribbean is you have to be able to acknowledge that another company, in this case Royal Caribbean, can offer comparable experience. And this doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is, because the thought process you just said there is, I think, one of the number one reasons why most Disney fans are hesitant to try Royal Caribbean or any other cruise line. Doesn't even matter. You can talk about any of them. I think that it's this. They know Disney really well. They know how great it is, and it is. It's a great product. They obviously, they know guest service really well. They do a lot of the characters, all that kind of stuff. But Royal Caribbean, and maybe part of the reason why I gravitate towards Royal Caribbean more so than other cruise lines also, is because I really feel they are really big on being a family cruise line, just like Disney, right? Mm. They're not a cruise line for just adults. They're not a cruise line for older folks. When you go on a Royal Caribbean cruise, you're going to find a pretty good blend of ages and demographics out there. You'll find old folks, you'll find young folks, you'll find teenagers, you'll find 20-something-year-olds, you'll find whatever I fit into. You'll find a lot of different age groups, and that's wonderful. And what Royal Caribbean offers is they have an award-winning kids program called Adventure Ocean. It's the camp. What does Disney call their the Oceaneer Club, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There you go. If I just noodle through it long enough, I'll figure it out. And they offer, it's a similar program to that, where it's supervised kids programming, and it goes from 3 years old all the way up to 17 years old. And they do a great job with it. I mean, I've said this. I was just on a Royal Caribbean cruise in beginning of May, and I was doing my live blog at ResortLoop.com about it. And I said at the end, I'm routinely impressed by a lot of things on Royal Caribbean, but the number one thing I'm continuously impressed by are the staff, the Adventure Ocean staff, the crew members that are basically overseeing our kids. And I've got two kids, ages 5 and 1, and they have different but similar experiences in there. And I am quite honestly amazed by how the attention they get. It's not that just that they're there doing clock in and clocking out, kind of just watching them. They really care. They really enjoy my kids being there, and that, as a parent, is wonderful. I love that kind of. It's not just a job to them. They really do care, and that's really, I think, a great example of the job that Royal Caribbean does with in terms of taking care of kids on board, because kids are a huge part of what Royal Caribbean does, and there's so much to that. I mean, that's one of the things I think Royal Caribbean does really well, in fact, better than Disney, is their ships offer so much more. They offer a ton of stuff to do in terms of activities, entertainment, and whatnot. And having all that stuff for kids to do, in addition to the great kids programming, I mean, it really adds up for our family really quite well.
Would you say one of the best compliments to Royal Caribbean is when you go to pick up your 5-year-old and they don't want to see you, they go hide?
Yeah, it is, and my daughter consistently, it's a surprise every time. She cries when we come to pick her up. She doesn't want to leave.
She starts yelling, "Stranger danger!"
yeah. She just doesn't. She enjoys her time there. Oftentimes, we felt bad the first time we did it. We left our daughter on board the ship while we were in port, and I forget which port it was. And we were, me and my wife were enjoying our time, but we were like, okay, we got to get back to the ship. We're concerned that she's crying in the corner. She misses us, all that other stuff. We get there. Plenty of time left before the ship was supposed to leave. And she gets there and she's like, no, I don't want to leave. So we're like, okay. So me and my wife went to the pool. We're like, do you want to come? No, I want to stay here. Okay. So yeah, absolutely. That's the greatest testament you can say if you've got that kind of reaction by your children. And, they do a great job. It's not an easy job by any means. But I think for kids, it's a great experience.
Now, how much more of a savings are you going to get going through Royal Caribbean as opposed to a Disney cruise?
I'm going to say that it's going to be in the thousands of dollars. In fact, my good friend Len Testa, who writes the unofficial guide to Disney Cruise Line, in addition to the unofficial guide to Walt Disney World.
He's name dropping.
Yeah, there he goes.
My good friend.
My good friend. He has actually a chapter in I think it's definitely in this year's book. I think it's in the last 2 years of the book. In the beginning of the book, they have a chapter on the competition. So this is a book about Disney Cruise Line, and in there they have examples basically almost across the board, the difference was in thousands of dollars. I mean, we're not talking like it's $100 more, or it's $500 more, thousands with an S of dollars more, and it's one of those things that it just boggles my mind, quite honestly, how Disney prices their cruises. But, money is the cost of the cruise isn't everything, and I recognize that, but it is a big thing. And something that Len always points out is, Disney does a lot of things well, but is it $2,000 more well? Is it how much of a difference does it make to you that it's worth to pay $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 difference or more? I mean, it really depends on the itinerary, so I don't want to give you generalizations.
Sure,
but really, you have to consider, and not only that. I mean, the Wonder and the Magic are significantly older ships than in Royal Caribbean's fleet, and Royal Caribbean's ships they're not even one-to-ones in the sense of what they offer, because even the Dream and the Fantasy, which are newer ships and offer a lot more than the Wonder and the Magic, they would stack up probably more closely to some of Royal Caribbean ships that have been around in the fleet now for about 10 years in terms of size and amenities.
Really?
So, yeah, it's really Disney marches to the beat of their own drum, but there's a lot of different factors involved, but yeah, cost is a big one, and I think that's really that's the hardest one to swallow, quite honestly, that is what drives people. I get at RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, I get a large swath of folks who come and visit the blog, but I wish I could count how many folks have come to me with this story of, I used to cruise with Disney, but the cost finally caught up with me, or something along those lines. Really? It is a common tale, and it's becoming more and more common because people don't want to, they can't afford it. They want to, but they can't. And I tell them, look, I was in the same exact situation, and I never looked back. So, my heart goes out to them, but you understand that at some point there is an alternative. But it goes back to what I talked about earlier, which is that you have to be willing. I don't want to sound like evangelical. You have to be willing to accept Royal Caribbean into your heart, in order to, you got to be able to look at that other option. And I know that's difficult because as a Parks fan, Walt Disney World fan, someone says, "Oh, Matt, Six Flags is a lot cheaper." Well, yeah, of course it is, but it's not close. It doesn't compare very well.
Right.
But I think cruising wise, that's a whole different story.
Well, like you said, if you're able to save thousands of dollars, I know Tim had gotten me to do a Disney cruise, and we just did a three-night cruise, and because we didn't know, and I know on your last show that was one of the mistakes you said not to make, is just do a 3-day cruise, and I understand what you're saying. I do, because all those tips, I was like, yeah, that was what I made a mistake doing. But if I'm able to save. One of the problems that we had was we weren't able to do as many excursions as we wanted because it just was, after paying for the cruise, there wasn't a whole lot of money left over for excursions. So saving that kind of money that's fantastic.
Absolutely. I mean, it all adds up, and it's like you said. I mean, reality is you don't just no cruise line unless you go for like the super premium, yacht cruises that are out there. In which case, more power to you, Len, for doing that. For the rest of us, when you're, you pay for the cost of the cruise, but there's a lot of other extras, and shore excursions are a big one because, of course, the real appeal and the reason why I love cruising, the reason I got into cruising was I love the idea of going and visiting different parts of the world. And not having to fly and packing and unpacking once, right?
Exactly.
And so you're absolutely right. And you want to go see these cool things. You want to do all the fun things you've seen, read, and watched about. But yeah, there's going to be costs associated with that. So obviously, even if you save just $1,000, I mean, when you're on a cruise ship, regardless of which line, you're probably going to end up spending that money on other things, right? Between shore excursions, maybe especially restaurants, souvenirs. It all adds up. So there is the cruise cost, but then there's the total cost, and we're all looking to save some money where we can. And if you can come home with more money in your pocket, that's even better.
So here's a shocking thing I've noticed: occasionally, Royal Caribbean will have sales.
What?
I know, discounts. What is this?
Actually, what I think is, and you're absolutely 100% right. You know what I find really more surprising?
What's that?
Not even as a joke, is the way that Royal Caribbean and Disney handle repeat cruisers. So Disney has the Castaway Club, Royal Caribbean has the Crown and Anchor Society. Do you guys want to tell the folks listening at home what you get as in the Castaway Club exactly? What's your reward?
Oh, what did I get last time? I think last time I got a little backpack.
But that's like nothing. You get nothing. Yeah. No, you get no rewards. You get nothing. Royal Caribbean, relatively speaking, you're getting discounts. There are events where they give you free alcohol and welcome you back in.
What?
They do events where they offer you priority embarkation. They reward you. And now coming from Disney to Royal Caribbean, I was like, did I do something wrong? Like, why am I getting like all this free stuff? Like, it was kind of a shock to me because I feel, this is my opinion, that Disney takes a lot of our business for granted, and they don't have to do that stuff. But it's kind of really, it's really, I don't want to say the word rewarding. It's really refreshing to have a company that values your business and treats you that way, right?
So
and
this isn't just because you're Matt Hochberg, right?
No.
Everybody gets it. All right. Just checking.
Yeah, no, this is everyone. I mean, as you accrue status, and it's just like, airlines almost, right? You accrue status, you get certain other benefits, but the benefits of it are really impressive, I think. I mean, I've gone up to the point now, I'm at in Royal Caribbean status, I'm Diamond. And at Diamond level, you get 3 free drinks a night, 3 free alcoholic drinks every night at any bar. So you guys know what a drink goes for on a cruise ship. That's a huge amount of money. Between me and my wife.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one minor example of that. But yeah, the sales, the way that they reward their customers. I mean, there's a lot of, I think, especially for people that are new to Royal Caribbean coming from Disney, I think they'll notice a lot of those things. It's like, wow, things are different around here.
That's it. That's very interesting. very, very attractive.
Absolutely.
How many ships does Royal Caribbean have? Do you know?
25.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Yeah. No. Keep in mind, they're not all operating out of North America. There's a number that operate. In fact, there's some that are dedicated to Asia and Australia. Right now, it's Disney. I think is doing the same thing. It's summer season, so many ships are over in Europe. But you still have that's actually. But to that point is with Disney, you've got 4 ships and soon to be 6. But we're talking about the 4 we've got right now. You're limited to 4 itineraries at any given time. With Royal Caribbean, you can go to cruise to Florida and go to the Bahamas and go to the Caribbean like Disney does. Or you go to Europe, or you can go to Australia, or you can go to the Middle East, or you can go to China. You can go to Alaska. And this isn't just like 1 or 2 cruises. This is throughout the years. They have cruises that go to San Juan, Puerto Rico, Galveston, Texas. There's a lot of opportunity. And, that to me, that's a huge plus. I love having variety. Variety is the spice of life, right?
Exactly.
And having the option to sail out of Galveston and go to Roatan, Honduras, and Belize, or maybe go out of San Juan, Puerto Rico, and go to the ABC Islands, Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao, or go over to Europe and go Northern Europe, go Mediterranean, go Southampton, England, and do the Canary Islands. Venice, Turkey. I mean, these are all places that Royal Caribbean bases their ships out of, seasonally at least, and that's huge because I think I love the Caribbean, but at some point you're going to want to branch out, try new things, and that's a huge plus right there.
Exactly. Royal Caribbean, they've been churning out a lot of new ships over the past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, they've been really at it. In fact, they just launched 2 ships in the last 2 months. That's admittedly a bit much even for them. They just had Ovation of the Season, Harmony of the Season, the world's largest cruise ship. Just came out literally last week, depending on when this episode airs. But it just came out, and and they've got still 4 more ships on order coming out in 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021.
Wow!
So it's pretty. And what's great about it again is that as new ships come out, that pushes the price down of those older ships. And older, I'm using in air quotes because ships that are from 2004, which are not old. Okay, they're they're barely 10 years old. That's nothing. That's newer than the Wonder and the Magic. Are commanding great value out of it. So to me as a consumer, it's wonderful having choice. I love having more choices than I can possibly ever pick from, rather than the other alternative of not having enough choice. Right. So it's really nice having all that kind of variety, and I think that whether you're looking for a Caribbean cruise or you're looking for an Alaska cruise or Europe or Asia or wherever, that's a real strength of Royal Caribbean, is that you have so many more choices throughout the year to consider.
I'm looking at the pictures on your website, RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, and of the Harmony of the Sea. That thing is massive.
It is huge.
Holy cow!
Yeah, so it's huge. It takes. I mean, you're talking about 6,000 passengers, right? That's massive because the Fantasy and the Wonder I think top out of about 4,000 passengers, maybe. Right. But now you say this, like, whoa, man, I don't want to be on like a sardine can. You know what? I'm going to give you a Walt Disney World example here. When you're in the Magic Kingdom and there are however many people, 60,000 people, whatever, are in the park, right? I mean, you might say, well, I'm going to feel like that's going to be crazy. How can they do that, Matt? Well, the way they do it is they have lands, right? You've got Adventureland, you've got Tomorrowland. They spread the crowds out that way, so it doesn't feel like that. Same thing with these cruise ships. They actually built neighborhoods. That's what Royal Caribbean calls them. So they got the Boardwalk neighborhood, the Central Park neighborhood, the sports deck neighborhood, and they have these little areas of the ship which help break up those crowds. So I'll tell you, having just gone on Allure of the Seas, which is the sister ship to Harmony of the Seas, she was the largest ship in the world. Now she's number 2.
Oh my,
yeah,
slumming it.
And it doesn't feel like you're on a ship with 6,000 people. It doesn't. It's kind of interesting how they really engineered the crowds that way.
I'll tell you, the biggest Royal Caribbean ship I have been on has been Mariner of the Seas, and that thing was flipping huge.
Yeah, that was actually a little side note, little Matt trivia. That was the ship I went on for my honeymoon.
Oh, nice,
great ship. And that ship used to be huge. I mean, relatively speaking, that's about 3,500 passengers, but that's like what 2/3 the size of Harmony now.
So that has to be a great cruise value then, comparatively.
Yeah, actually, I went on her sister ship, Navigator of the Seas, last month, and I mean, your fares are, first of all, the fares are lower. You're getting more interesting itineraries. We've got a group cruise coming up on Navigator of the Seas, so same class ship as Mariner that you just mentioned, going out of Miami, going to Labadee, which is Royal Caribbean's private island, just like it's very comparable to Castaway Cay.
Love it.
But then we're going to Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao.
Wow.
Out of Miami.
Nice.
Like that's like, to me, that's awesome. I love that. And the price point, oh my gosh, guys, it's crazy affordable. I don't want to say inexpensive, but affordable. And when you consider all that, I mean, it's just, again, this is the difference when you say, well, what's that? How does the thousands of dollars difference between Royal Caribbean and Disney compare? Well, it's the difference between being able to take maybe 2 cruises a year, or being able to take 1 cruise in an inside cabin on Disney, or 2 on Royal Caribbean in a balcony, right? I mean, there are a lot of different choices there, and the value is really tremendous. I'm really a big fan of it.
Now, everybody talks about how big the cabin sizes are on the Disney cruise ships. How comparable are we talking cabin size?
Yeah, that's a good point. And Disney, to their credit, they were a market leader. They really changed things up when they first entered the cruise market with their larger stateroom sizes, because back then, coming up to the 90s, stateroom sizes were on the smaller side. And since Disney, that really shook up the industry and said, wow, people really do care about this kind of stuff. So Royal Caribbean has added quite a bit of, expanded the size of their rooms. And every new class of ships, we see that. And certainly on Harmony of the Seas is very comparable. They offer a lot more space than they used to. And I think, it measures up pretty well with what Disney offers in terms of living space. In fact, but the other thing is, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to give you a cheating answer. With Royal Caribbean, I can easily afford to do 2 connecting staterooms. And I love my children. I do. But I don't like sleeping with them. I don't. They wake up at dawn. They're like roosters, and they go to sleep earlier than I do. And I don't like playing the quiet game, of like, oh gosh, please don't hear me turn the cruise compass,
right,
to wake them up. So we get 2 rooms, and we get 2 connecting rooms, and it's very affordable still. And that way, they get their own little space. They get to be, and we get our own little space, me and my wife, and it works out really, really well for us. So. And we get 2 bathrooms. It really works itself out. And I know that we're still coming out ahead financially compared to if we try to do something similar like that on Disney. So, I hope that I try not to slam Disney. Like, I'm not a hater by any means.
Right.
I think their pricing is crazy.
Well, that's why we're doing the show. I think everybody should experience cruising. It's like the most relaxing vacation I've ever had.
Absolutely, dude. And if you want to do it on Disney, absolutely go for it. That's how I started to go take a Disney cruise. It's fine. It's fine. But when you realize that you love it as much as we do, which is great, then I'm hoping maybe you'll consider some other options that are out there, or go straight Royal Caribbean. Hey, that's even better. But it is absolutely a fantastic vacation, right? I mean, it's a great way to see the world, relax. It's, you know what I love about it is the opportunity to do what everyone can do what they want to do. You know, you can go crazy. You can go do every day. There's a whole list of activities. You can go do all those things. You can go do the belly flop competition, go ride the flow rider, climb the rock climbing wall, do the sushi making demonstration, you know, and go to trivia 3 times a day, and then, you know, then I guess sleep for 12 hours. Or you can sleep until 11 o'clock in the morning, go up to the pool deck, take another nap over there, as you should, you know, and
exactly.
And you know, it's really up to you. Make your own adventure, so to speak, and that I think is and this is true of all cruises. That is such a empowering way to vacation that, you know, especially when you have got young children. I don't want to do the same things as them necessarily. There are some things we are going to do together, which I think are a lot of fun. But it's great to be able to mix it up. And as my kids get older, I know they're going to want to do other things than what we're doing, and that's awesome. The cruise can do that. We're good with that.
And one thing we've not mentioned is Royal Caribbean, unlike Disney, does have a casino.
They do, yes. My wife is not a big fan of me going there, but I love going there. It's great. I tell her, honey, it's a lock. I swear, red is going to hit this time. There's no question. This money is easily doubled.
Right. Cruise is paid for by just me going down there.
It's an investment.
We can't afford not to go down.
Yeah, I tell her that. I'm not sure it quite works out that way, but yeah, it is. And, you know, the casino is not the focal point. It's a part of the ship, right. Just like on, you know, there's especially restaurants or you know, other venues on board the ship. It's an option that you have to go to. It's not like you get on and immediately you're in a casino where the whole ship is a casino. It's not like Las Vegas where, if you've ever been there, you know, there's slot machines in the bathrooms. It's not like that. Okay, there's a dedicated casino room. It's actually not as large as you would think. I didn't think. What did you guys think? Did you think the casino was? I didn't think it was. It wasn't like a sprawling mega plaza. I thought, you know, it was a fair sized room, but it was on one deck,
right,
in one area, and that was it.
Yeah, on Mariner, I noticed it was a decent size. It wasn't huge. I'm not a big gambler, so I wasn't in there too long to begin with. But I walked through a couple times and checked things out.
It's just fun to walk around and just like people watch and kind of see who's winning and who's pulling their hair out.
Exactly.
What? All right, we got to ask you, what your favorite cruise that you've taken so far?
Well, I think I'm obliged to say my honeymoon cruise.
Your wife's listening? All right. Yeah,
probably
we'll give
not,
you that.
But I think just for legal reasons, I'm going to say my honeymoon cruise. No, my honeymoon cruise was great. It was a lot of fun. Actually, what was really interesting about that was because it was my honeymoon cruise, it was the only cruise I've never looked forward to. And let me qualify that. And I know someone's going to splice that out and send to my wife. I didn't mean it, honey, like that. What I meant was, you know, with the wedding, we're so focused on that. Mm-hmm. I distinctly remember that night, the night of the wedding, think, you know, wedding's over, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're going on a cruise tomorrow. Like, usually I'm got like, hey, we're, you know, weeks leading up to it. I'm super excited about it. And that was kind of an interesting nuance. But I would say, you know, my favorite cruise ever outside of my honeymoon cruise, you know, I got to say maybe the cruise I just did on Allure of the Seas, which is now the world's second largest cruise ship. It was a group cruise. It was a bunch of folks. Annette Owens, who was, of course, also recorded with us on WDW Today. Mm-hmm. She was on there with us. And we basically invited a bunch of folks to come join us on there and enjoy the cruise together. And that was a lot of fun, I'll tell you. We had a great time on there. And that was just a real hoot nanny, as they say. I don't know who they are, but
it's always fun to cruise with you know, like-minded people.
Absolutely.
And everybody's looking to have a good time and roll with stuff, and that's awesome.
When you're considering your cruises, how much of it is the ship and how much of it is the itinerary?
I'm going to give you the weakest answer there is. It depends.
Okay. Right.
Let me give you an example. So, like I mentioned that we're coming up, we've got a group cruise on Navigator of the Seas going to the ABC Islands. In that case, the itinerary is a huge factor because I've never been to the ABC Islands. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh, dude, I got to do this one because I've always wanted to go to Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. Never had the opportunity because usually to go to Southern Caribbean, you got to go out of Puerto Rico. And I don't love flying, and so it's not as convenient. So here was an opportunity to do that here. But when we went on Allure of the Seas, that was about the ship. That was like, we got to do the world's largest cruise ship. I want to check it out for myself. And so it was like, so it kind of depends, honestly. You know, it's kind of like, well, depending on the time of year and what we're looking to do, maybe there'll be a brand new ship like Harmony of the Seas. You know, maybe that's obviously going to be a huge factor. But if you see a certain itinerary, you might say to yourself, oh, wow, the itinerary makes it a big difference. So I think I weigh them fairly evenly, and it kind of depends on which side of the scale the decision comes down to, because a lot of times it can be the ship, it can be there have been times where there have been similar itineraries and then it comes down to the ship, or similar ships that comes down to the itinerary. So it goes both ways, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Do you have a dream cruise that you want to take that Royal Caribbean offers that you haven't taken yet?
Absolutely. I would love to do first of all, I want to do a Panama Canal cruise. That's something my wife is dying to do, and I would love to do. But I would love to do a Panama Canal cruise that just continues on. So you go through the Panama Canal. That's great. And then combines another kind of, so maybe Panama Canal, transatlantic to Europe, just keep on going. I mean, just, it's like a Brazilian steakhouse. Just
there you go. There you go.
The thing, keep me going. I would love to do something like that where you just, you're really, it's almost like a halfway around the world kind of cruise. But something like that would really be cool because you get to see the whole Panama Canal, you go through the Caribbean, and then you're over to Europe. I mean, I can only imagine what that would be like. Something to that effect would be, to me, really, really exciting.
So the longer the better.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The longer, that means I'm not going back to work. So even better. I love that.
Let me ask you for one tip. So we've convinced somebody they're going to do Royal Caribbean. How would you suggest they get from the parks or from their resort to whatever port they're going to go to, whether it's Tampa, Port Canaveral, or Miami? What's the best route for them to go?
Assuming the ship goes out of Florida,
yes.
I would probably say, honestly, if it were me, I always recommend a rental car.
Mm-hmm.
I think it gives you a couple advantages. Number one, it's probably going to be cheaper, especially if you've got more than 2 people. So for families, usually going to be probably a better value. Number two, it gives you a lot more convenience. You leave when you want to leave. You get there when you want to get there. And also it allows you to see Florida. There's a lot of stuff to do around there. And whether or not you want to... You can do a little bit of sightseeing, or you want to come in. A lot of people like to go to a hotel the night before their cruise. So that way there's no issues with delays and travel problems. Going to restaurants. It just gives you a lot more control of your vacation. And to me, that's a bigger deal. So I really like that idea. Now, if you're going out of Port Canaveral, and people who have cruised on Disney will probably know this as well, it's not quite as important because Orlando to Port Canaveral is really through the Florida wilderness. There's really not a whole lot to see or do until you get from either you're in Orlando or you're in Port Canaveral. So you're not missing out on a whole lot there. And in that case, you might consider some other options. Uber is a great one. Maybe you go a little fancy pants, and you get yourself a limo. They're really not that expensive to do something like that and start your vacation off the right way, right? Or cry your vacation away as you come back to the airport, whatever, however you want to handle it. Do something like that. That's not bad. So from Orlando to Port Canaveral, those kind of options are, and Tampa as well. It's it's close enough that you can consider other options. But if you're going out to Port Everglades, which is Fort Lauderdale, or Port of Miami, I think you pretty much have to do a rental car. I would struggle to think about something that would be certainly cheaper and match the kind of convenience that that a rental car offers. So. More than likely, rental car for the other options.
Okay. Matt, before we let you go, now the timeless question with Disney and cruising. What do you do first? Do you do the Disney portion first or the cruise first?
Got to do Disney first. Got to get your legs completely broken and your feet hurting and all that stuff. You got to go Disney first and then relax on the cruise.
That's why you're the Disney and cruise expert. You nailed it. Oh, Matt, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here. Thanks so much for the invitation. Love coming on here and talking with you guys.
Absolutely. We got to have you on again after you do the Harmony of the Seas. You got to tell us all about that.
Absolutely. I'm hoping you guys will join me for a cruise sometime. It'd be a lot of fun to be able to go on there and we'll talk Disney at sea. That'll be a lot of fun, right? We can debate the usual topics like, favorite best ride, and I'll tell you guys it's Tower of Terror, and then you'll say, Matt, you're crazy.
And then we'll say best park. Best park.
Okay.
Best park, yes, we can do that. We can talk about the merits of FastPass Plus. We can do all the things we do on message boards, but in real life.
That's right, within swinging range.
Can we talk about Dinosaur?
Oh, my good. You can
or the hydrolators?
Wow.
Those things are real. I don't care what you're talking about.
Exactly. You just went old school. You lost 95% of the people out there, Bob.
Go back, listen to those episodes. They're fantastic. Tim, that's all I've got.
Oh, Matt, where can everybody find you?
So you can check me out at RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com. It's probably the easiest. The podcast is there. All my social media stuff is there. Love hanging out there and post everything there. So definitely easy to find me there, and hope you'll enjoy it.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thank you very much for joining us on the show. I'm Tim Scott. You can find me on Twitter, ResortLoopTim, on Facebook at Tim Scott, and the website, ResortLoop.com.
I'm Resort Loop Bob on the Twitter and Instagram. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, rate us on iTunes. Tim, what else should folks do?
Absolutely. Go out and share us with your friends. This has been the Gateway to the Magic.
See you, everybody. With 4 theme parks, 25 resort hotels, hundreds of dining and shopping locations, and seemingly innumerable special events and ticket options, planning a trip to Walt Disney World can seem overwhelming. That's why the ResortLoop.com podcast has teamed up with People Mover Travel to help you get the most magic out of your Disney vacation. People Mover Travel will walk you through every aspect of your next Disney trip, from ensuring you get the best discounts to FastPass Plus and dining reservations and so many other things. Best of all, there is no fee for their service. That's right, you get your very own expert Disney vacation planner at no cost to you. For more information and to request a free, no-obligation quote, visit peoplemovertravel.com.